as part of their punishment and also to protect society. Why would I suddenly be okay? Why would I suddenly say, well, we should enslave them for being?
Well, I'm saying, yeah, he's already in prison. We might as well. I mean, we kind of do this already with this kind of like chain gangs, but it probably wouldn't work in the U.S., but there might be a country where that would be allowed, where we figure it'd be justice. And since he's wasting away, he might as well do something to help you since he's done so much too. But anyway, even though you might not agree, that someone else might agree with that, okay, you
What
can be my
exactly?
slave.
What is it?
That would be
So
the whole
just
point.
quickly, what is it that you think I disagree with, and what is it that I don't agree with? Like, I agree putting him away in jail if he's murdered my family. I agree with that. But where are you getting that he has to be forced into growing beans for me?
No, you're missing my point. My point is, if we did come to some kind of agreement, if the victim and the court system did that, it would be a fair slavery. So you're not against slavery, you're against unfair slavery. And that goes back to my original point that it's a fairness agreement between, that's why I can't murder. We have to come to an agreement. There's only two possibilities in society. We have wars and warlords. We have pillaging. We have raping. The only other option besides that, if you don't like that, if you want to grow as a society, is we have to come together with an agreement of fairness where I don't murder you, you don't murder me, I don't rape you, you don't rape me. And that works out splendidly. We have to do this. We absolutely have to do this, or things are going to be much, much worse for us. And that's why.
Let's just start with some really basic scenarios, okay? Is it okay for me to just murder someone? Don't talk about slave beans or anything like that. Just, is it okay for me to just murder?
Now, are you using the legal sense of murder, which is just like the person is innocent and you're killing them?
Okay, so let me just make it really clear. So it's just an innocent person that's minding their own business. Is it okay for me to just go up to them and just stab?
No, that wouldn't be okay because you would not want that done to you. So that's a fairness agreement, and that's what we have to do. You've been kept safe your entire life because no one has done that to you. So it would be unfair for you to do that to someone in society when the entirety of society has not done that to you. And as tested
Okay, so
by your living and breathing.
You're throwing in social contract and reciprocation there, but let's just assume that I could murder this person and there would be absolutely no ramifications for me. Let's just say I could get away with it. Would it be ethical for me to do it? Just go ahead and kill this person. You there, Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to push talk. Yeah, that would be, I would consider that unethical.
Okay. Do you believe that moral differentiation requires justification? I can explain that further if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if I treat individual A differently from individual B in a moral sense, do I need to give reasons for why? So if I said it's okay to stab individual A to death, but not morally okay to stab individual B to death, would I have to give a reason?
Would you have to explain what the difference is between A and B and why?
Yeah,
Well,
that's it. That's it. So
maybe you just chose to do A or B, or like maybe there's no reason.
yeah, so I'm asking you, do you think if somebody treats individual A differently from individual B, that they should give a reason or that they shouldn't bother giving a reason? That it's just okay to randomly assign whether it's okay to morally just stab someone to death or not stab someone to death?
Well,
Or should you give?
I don't see what stabbing person A has to do with person B at all. You would deal with each individual person. So person A, you stabbed him, that you shouldn't have done that, and person B, you didn't stab him. So why? I don't understand how he's coming into the equation. You can say that about person A and the other 7 billion people in the world under that.
Yeah. Don't worry about the 7 billion people. Just really simple, okay? So I've got person A, person B, okay? I stabbed person A, okay? And I said this was a morally good thing to do. I didn't stab person B, okay? and I said it was morally wrong to stab this person. Do you want a reason as to why I'm treating these two individuals differently? Or do you not need a justification at all and you're just going to be like, yeah, that whatever?
That's why it's not making sense, because there's also 7 billion other people that you didn't stab. So I don't see what you're focusing in on this other one person. You stabbed this one person.
Don't
That's
worry about
wrong.
the 7 billion. Don't worry about the 7 billion. There's no point extrapolating. Just concentrate on this one thing, okay? So I'm treating two individuals differently, okay? Do I need to justify why I'm treating these two individuals differently?
No, you just have to justify why you treated the bad one, because you didn't do anything to one. The other one you treated you violently. So you have to justify
Yeah,
why you
okay,
treated
so,
them violently.
but you would want, yeah, so exactly. So you want me to justify why it's okay to treat one in one way, but not okay to treat the other in a different, or in the same way. So,
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you treated, okay. Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
suppose so. I suppose so. I mean, I don't see what difference it makes when you got one person where you didn't do anything to, and how they come into equation. It seems like your problem, your focus should be on the person that you did something to, not the person that you didn't do something to.
exactly. Good. Okay. And if I use that justification, do you think I should be consistent with my justification?
You should be consistent with justification of why you murdered that one person. Yeah, I suppose so.
Okay. So that's basically the basic sort of premise, or the basic sort of, I guess, pathway for name the trait. Okay. So all of us agree that humans should be given basic negative rights consideration. Okay. And then the next step is, why don't we give this consideration to animals? Okay. And usually the reasoning is because animals are inferior to us in one or multiple ways. So then the next question is, if we reduce a human down to that level, would we treat a human the same way, or would we not treat a human the same way? Okay? And if you don't treat them the same way, then you're being inconsistent. But if you treat them the same way, usually it results in some kind of absurdity. Okay? So that's what name the trait basically means. It's just,
Yeah, I
we
understand.
stab
I
animals
understand
to
all
death.
that.
Okay, then what is your reasoning, without going into appeals to tradition and all of this stuff, okay? Why is it okay to stab a cow to death, but not a human, just to make them into a bird?
You mean the human and the cow that are they're both identical now? Is that what you're kind of like ask yourselves? They're both identical.
Yep.
So you have a cow, specifically a cow, and then a human, and they're both identically a cow or whatever, right?
So all of the things that are important to you, we'll just map them out. So
Okay.
intelligence
Did you see
levels,
my video? Did
lifespan.
you see my video? And how did we first define one of them as human? How did we define them as a human? Because when we started out, we defined one as human and we defined one as animal, regardless of their physical appearance. How did we do that?
Okay, so we don't need to play in word games. I'm not trying to trick you or anything.
Oh no,
So
that's not a trick. We're going to have to get back into that, because that's where the point is. That's where they were different. One was born to humans. That's how you're human. It has a human connection. I said that. And if the cow, if it has a human connection, it can live too, because we give rights to all humans who aren't murderous. We give all
okay,
rights
so
to all in-group members. We give rights to
yeah,
all
so
endangered
just in
species.
Wiki, yeah, just in Wiki is the definition of, sorry, just in the general text, I've put in a Wiki um, definition of whatever of humans. Okay, so it's just really really simple. So it's just, I think you're saying born to humans is the thing that's defining the difference between them. By the way, if someone else can
Yeah,
jump in,
but
I just need to
it's
do my.
explained in my video that isn't true from it, regardless if they're human or not. If they're in group, regardless if they're human or animal, They deserve rights.
So in-group is the thing that's differentiating the...
No, in-group is what we give rights to.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's humans are in our specific group of consideration, but cows are not.
Animals can be in that in-group too.
Okay. I'm going to head up and just do my shopping if someone else wants to jump.
Well, I didn't hear that. You're going to go shopping?
I'm actually at the shopping center. I've just been waiting a bit and starting it off, but someone else can jump in.
Okay, yeah. And back to that, like I say, Isaac is going to have to explain why, if he's a shiller or not. Say it's just pretty stark that he would jump on Count Dacula's troll video and take mine not serious. Like I said, would almost have a video. My collaboration with Bering has over 750,000 views. It's a vegan collaboration. I have more vegan YouTube views than most all of you vegans.
Nice.
There's no reason why Ask Yourself can't have a live debate unless he's really scared or something.
I guess I can stomp Mike quickly. So Mike, what's the difference between an animal and a human that makes it okay to murder the animal but not the human?
There has to be a specific trait like I explained to you. An animal in an in-group, a human in the in-group, they both get protection.
Okay, so the trait is being part of the in-group? Hello?
Name the I'm sorry. Name the trait is a dead end broken because we
No, wait, there's a question. Mike, don't dodge the question. The question was, is the trait that you're naming in-group?
No, there's many traits.
Okay, but so what I'm asking you is, what is it that's true of animals that, if true of humans, would justify killing humans for food?
Okay. Cannibalizing an innocent human.
That's not a trait, right?
It has to be nothing. Has to be nothing.
Okay, wait. So wait. No. Once Mike, I want an answer, right? So just to be clear, are you saying there's no trait?
There's no trait that would allow you to cannibalize an innocent human because that's what you're asking with name the trait.
Well, just to be clear on the framing isn't, is there some trait that would allow you to do it? The question is there some trait true of animals that, if true of humans, would allow you to do it?
Yeah, allow you to cannibalize them. And we're talking about innocent humans. We're not talking about murderous humans, right?
Yeah, technically, if you say there's no trait at all, then it's implied that there's also no trait true of animals that, if true of humans, would justify murdering the human for food, right? If there's no trait overall, then there's also no trait in animals, because the traits that are true of animals is just a subcategory of the total amount of traits out there. But instead of just assuming that's what you're saying because it's an implication of what you said because you didn't directly answer the question, I'm just putting the question to you directly. So just to be clear, you are affirming that there is no trait true of an animal that, if true of a human, would justify killing the human against their will for food.
Well, if you let me, I was going to answer that. Said we start with the axiom.
Mike, start with a yes or no, because it's a yes or no question, right?
That there is no trait.
Yeah, I'm asking you to affirm or deny the following. So this is a yes or no question, right? So
to cannibalize an innocent person.
The question is there anything true of animals that, if true of humans,
would allow you to cannibalize an innocent person?
Well, would allow as in would justify it on your moral system, would justify stabbing a human to death and making them into a hamburger.
Yeah, explain that there's no trait. Because it's an unusual thing. Because
wait,
you have to,
so just to be clear, just to be clear, so there's no trait.
Now.
Well, wait. We need to be clear on the line of questioning. Wait, we need to be clear on the line of questioning, right? We need to be clear on the line of questioning. So you affirm that there's no trait, and presumably you're also saying that there's differential moral status, right? So as in, it's okay to murder the animal for food. It's not okay to murder the human for food.
Yeah, because we have a fairness agreement with other humans, so we can't murder people for food because
Okay.
you do not want to be murdered for food.
Yep. So that view has a
You not
logical
murder others
contradiction.
for food.
Yeah. So that view explodes. That's logically contradictory, right? So the reason for that is if you're saying that humans are wrong to stab for food, animals are okay to stab for food, and there's nothing true of animals that, if true of humans, would justify stabbing them to death for food, then you could change every single thing true of the animal. In the human, you could change every single thing to match the animal, and it would remain wrong to stab the human to death for food. But
What
wait,
about
if
including
you change
in
every
group?
single thing in the human to match the animal, then it should take on this property of being okay to stab to death for food, right? So you get a
You're only
logical
talking about
contradiction
physical
there.
properties.
Wait, Mike, it's like you're not even listening to the flow of the logic, right? So if you say that, you end up with this logical contradiction in the form that animals are and aren't okay to stab to death for food, right?
Depending on the context, depending on the situation.
Well, no, Mike, no dodging, right? So we already got, we already got what we need to know to understand that there's a contradiction, right? So if it is wrong to stab a human to death for food, it's okay to stab an animal to death for food. And there's nothing true of the animal that, if true of the human, would justify stabbing them to death for food, then a contradiction will follow, right? And the contradiction comes about because if there's no trait, then you can switch all the traits in the human to match the animal. But if you switch all of the traits, then, and the property of being okay to kill does not change, that implies that the animal has the property of being wrong to kill for food. So you end up with this direct logical contradiction of animals are and aren't okay to kill for food.
What if we got this magically switching the properties? What if we magically switch both of their properties to an ear of corn?
Well, wait, you're not, okay, so Mike, I'm getting the impression you actually don't comprehend the logic, right? So you have to, okay, do you understand what, let's start from like real basics. So do you understand what, wait, Mike, do you understand what a logical contradiction is, just as like a starting point?
Yeah, try something else.
Well, no, this is the argument, right? So do you understand what a logical contradiction is?
Well, so I got to explain to you why name the trait is unanswerable.
Well, no, what I want to know is, do you understand what a logical contradiction is?
Yeah,
right? So I've tried going down the line of name the trait with you. Well, just a sec, because I've tried going down the line of name the trait with you. So I've explained where the contradiction is, I think either twice or three times now, and you're not appreciating it. So now I need to make sure so now I'm going off of the line of reasoning and clarifying that you actually understand the terms that are being used, right? So do you understand what a logical contradiction is?
Yes.
Could you tell me what a logical contradiction is?
A logical contradiction?
Yeah.
It's when your contradiction. It's when you contradict yourself. You say one thing, but you say another thing, and then they don't match.
Okay, but see, now this is probably part of the problem, right? Is you don't actually have a clear understanding of what a logical contradiction is. So the definition of contradiction is not you say one thing and then you say another thing and they don't match. Do you want to try again, or do you want me to just help you understand what it is?
Yeah, go ahead and let me see what you have to say.
Yeah, so a contradiction is the assertion of a propagation and its negation in a conjunction, P and not P.
Yeah, listen, I understand all your autism, but you do not approach this. So I tried to explain to you that your whole syllogism is framed completely in the wrong way, because you are separating human and animal, and then you're putting them together as the same thing as sentient being.
Well, wait a second. We need to just make sure we have an understanding of the logic here, right? Because if you understand that the syllogism itself is deductively valid, then your only way to argue against it is to take issue with one of the premises, right? So we'll get to that and make sure there's an understanding of validity also. But just to start with contradiction, so can you I just want to make sure you get what a contradiction is. So can you give me just an example of a logical contradiction?
Well, it's like one of the things you said, you can and cannot lift a weight, you know?
Sure, sure. And you understand that the reason why it's true that I can lift this weight, it's false that I can lift this weight, is a logical contradiction, is that you are asserting a proposition and then its negation, right? So a proposition, that's a statement that can have a truth value. So, Mike is alive, or, animals have DNA, or houses are pink, right? So you got a proposition, and it can be either true or false. So when you say a contradiction is the assertion of a proposition and its negation in conjunction, what you're saying there is that you're stating a proposition, so P, and then in conjunction, so and, its negation, right? The negation is not P. So any sentence of that kind of structure, it's true that Mike is alive and it's false that Mike is alive. It's true that the sun exists and it's false that the sun exists. Those are logical contradictions.
I haven't explained how you said you could switch every trait and you could put anything in. So what if we put plants in instead of animals?
Well, wait. See, the problem is that you want to try to get into talking conceptually about the argument, but I need to make sure that you actually understand the nuts and bolts, right? Because you don't seem to understand where the contradiction comes from. So I'm just walking you through the logic. So I'm going to assume we have an understanding of what contradiction is. If it looks like we don't, we can come back to it. Do you understand what a valid argument is?
Absolutely, yeah.
What's a valid argument?
No, just go ahead. I'm not going to answer these essay questions.
Well,
I mean, if you want to go ahead.
Oh, Mike, I don't want you to pretend like you know the answers, right? Because I don't think you know these basic things. That's why I'm asking you them. So what is a valid argument?
I'm not into all this technical fucking jargon for critical thinking, you know.
Okay, so you don't actually
you're dealing
know.
with all this technical stuff.
Well, wait, you don't actually know if the argument is valid then.
Nothing you do plugs into the real world. And I explained that.
Well, wait, so would you affirm
you to call a human non-human?
You don't understand. Would you affirm
naming the trait is impossible? You have to call a human a non-human.
Mike, would you
start with the axiom you could never kill an innocent human?
Mike, wait. Would you affirm that you don't understand if the argument is valid or not?
You framed name the trait to make it impossible.
That's a yes or no. That's a yes or no. Would you affirm that you understand, that you do not understand whether the argument is valid or not? Yes or no?
Yeah, there's lots of things that come into play to make an argument valid.
I didn't ask, are there lots of things that come into play to make an argument valid? I asked, would you affirm that you don't understand whether the argument is valid or not? Yes or no?
The argument, you mean this name the trait argument?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not valid.
Okay, so if you're making the positive claim that the argument is not valid, I'm definitely going to make sure that you at least know what validity is. So can you just define validity for me?
Yeah, with name the trait.
No, the definition of validity has nothing to do with name the trait. No, Mike, I'm going to cut you off right there. Mike, I'm going to cut you off right there. Mike, I'm going to cut you off right there. The definition of validity does not involve the word name the trait. So
yeah, we're not going to sit there and specifically answer your specific questions like I'm on trial.
No, Mike. You've made a positive claim. Wait, you've made a positive claim. The claim that you have made is that the argument is invalid. If you're going to make that claim, you absolutely must know what validity is. So I'd like you to give me a definition of validity to make sure that you understand what you're saying.
Validity? What validity means?
Yeah, validity in logic.
Means it's proven to be correct. If something is valid, it's proven to be correct.
No, that's not the definition of validity. If you look up validity in logic, you will not see definition proven
Okay.
to be correct. So
What
would
we're
you
gonna
would
do-
you would
what
you
we're gonna
affirm
do
that
is
you would?
If you
So
want to debate me,
Mike,
if
I
you want
think
to debate me,
it's really
we'll
obvious.
have 10 minutes where you can grill me like this and I'll answer all your questions. And then we're going to have 10
Wait,
minutes where I grill
Mike,
you and you're going to
Mike,
shut up and you're going
Mike,
to answer all my
Mike,
questions.
Mike,
No,
wait,
you
wait.
can't debate like this.
Yeah,
You
no,
cannot,
Mike,
you cannot sit here
Mike,
and control a
Mike,
debate like this
Mike,
where you
no,
drill
Mike,
questions
Mike,
and
Mike,
I answer them.
weasel off of the
That's
points.
no way to
You can't
debate.
weasel off of the points.
That
right?
is the
You
way
can't
to try
weasel
to
off of debate.
dominate your
You
debate.
can't wait, Mike. You can't weasel off of the points, right? So you've
You
made a
cannot
positive wait.
sit there
So you
and
wait, Mike.
dominate the debate
No,
like
no,
this.
no, Mike,
Shut
Mike.
up and
Wait,
consistently
wait.
answer
No,
your
no, no, no,
questions.
no.
That's not how I'm
Wait.
going to.
Okay, I'm gonna have to use priority. So, Mike, I also have a 5 times rule. So you've hit 1 here with being evasive, right? Once you hit 5, I don't talk to people anymore. So what I am doing is, wait, did he leave? Oh, okay.
That
All
was a
right,
good debate.
I think he left. Well, that was a wreck. I don't know what would drive someone to claim that an argument is invalid without knowing what validity means.
That was embarrassingly stupid.
Yeah, well then the other thing is, like, a lot of people will play the victim like that, right? So what happens is they come into the debate and then they'll make some kind of assertion, right? And then you push them for an answer and they try to weasel off of actually answering the question. They try to talk about other things. They try to not really answer. And then when you push them for an answer and don't let them move off point and talk over them and force them to actually answer, it's not that you're not giving them room. It's that you're wanting them to actually...
He's back. He's back.
Well, I was just going to say, what people will then do is then play the victim and say, well, I'm being talked over. It's like, well, no, you're not addressing the point, and I'm asking you a question. So you're obviously going to have the question put to you again. Okay, Mike, I see that you're back. So you have made a positive claim, right? You've claimed that the argument is invalid. At minimum, you should know what validity is if you're making a claim like that, right? So you're on record here right now just completely failing to even know what validity means in logic. Do you want to try again? Do you want to look it up? Do you want me to just tell you?
He's actually typing in general, so...
No, you can use the push to talk. There's the push key on your keyboard like you were doing before.
It's about to get real cancer.
Yeah, he's just gonna text.
Why is he typing instead of talking?
Probably forgot how talk works.
It's possibly
no
doesn't have his speakers on. I don't fucking know.
There's no priority push to text.
No, he was using it before. He seemed to be able to figure it out. It looks like he's typing in general.
No, I'm being a smartass. I think he's just going to type it out so he doesn't have to talk to you.
Yeah, but we're not going to go, like, if he types something that doesn't address the question, then we're not going to even deal with it, right? Because he's been asked to actually substantiate his claim, right? So his claim is that the argument is invalid. So what he's got to do before even making an argument for why the argument is invalid or showing why it's invalid, he's got to demonstrate an understanding of what validity means, obviously. And so far he's given no indication that he understands what validity means in the context of logic.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just looks like he's just talking.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, as everyone in here knows, you get plenty of room to talk. You don't get room to derail, right? So if you're going to try to not answer the question, then I'm not going to humor that. But if you want to actually answer the question, I'm, waiting to hear it. So I see Mike typing. I'm not stupid enough to do... Okay, so that's not an answer, right? So, Mike, the question that's being asked of you is, do you understand what validity means in the context of logic? Okay, so I guess that he's just... What, he's just not going to talk? I mean, I guess that's a pretty thorough wreck. So yeah, if you want to just like brush up on this for next time, what you'd want to know, you'd want to actually get an understanding of what validity is before you claim that an argument's invalid, right? Because if you don't even know what a thing is, it's pretty insanely retarded to be telling other people what things fit the category that you don't understand the meaning of, right? You'd have to be like incredibly stupid to say something like that. Okay. I think he's gone. Are there any other Carnists who are looking for debate, or should we close the Crucible? Okay.
Jerry, apparently.
Yeah, what?
You said you wanted to do that.
Yeah, can we debate the ethics of veganism?
Yeah, go crazy. Just go ahead and make your case for the Holocaust.
Oh, yeah, sure. Meat tastes good.
I am not personally debating him. I just came in to debate Mike because he was talking shit, and I thought I'd make him look dumb. But if one of you guys wants to respond to this like level 0 Carnist stuff, go crazy.
I won. I won the debate. Ask yourself has been destroyed.
Potatoes
Totally.
taste good too.
Fair enough.
You don't have to have meat to have potatoes. I win.
I'm sorry, but are we sitting in a chat with 50 vegans, roughly, or something like that, and no one knows how to respond to taste, though?
Maybe they just like they don't bother to answer such a stupid justification.
Wow, I'm so surprised. No vegans have a response. There's so many of them too.
Okay, does the fact that meat tastes good, does it justify you killing the animal?
Hell yeah.
How? If
Your taste pleasure.
if I thought that a human tasted good, do you think that would justify me killing a human?
Can I rape someone if I like the way it feels?
Well, by can, do you mean are you physically capable of it?
No, is it
No,
morally
you should.
like?
I mean, I don't think that there's some sort of like universal moral system. So if you're asking me like, should or should people not rape people? All I can tell you is I don't want people to be raped, but I'm not going to be able to justify some sort of like universal system for not raping people.
No, but you're justifying your act of killing animals by using your pleasure, right? Like you get pleasure out of it.
Yeah, and if I was like some crazy person and wanted to go murder people, I'd probably go murder people, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay,
So like,
Okay, so Jerry, the question is pinned to you. We're not asking about the capability. We're asking in your subjective reality. Do you find it ethical or not to kill somebody based upon taste pleasure?
Yeah, if I wanted to, I would go